So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. As introduced by Dr. Ibrahim, today we'll be talking about a blockchain. It is a technology, what we call disruptive technology, that it can reshape the business, as mentioned by Dr. Ibrahim. And it will not be a deep technical session today. We will not talk about how to write the code or how to configure blockchain ledger or network. This is not the kind of the session we want to provide today. We want to open your mind with some ideas that how can we reflect blockchain as a technology to enable business, how we can solve business problem, how we can capture some opportunities that we see it's hard to be captured by the current technology we have today. Starting with what's blockchain, I want to see hands now. Who knows what exactly could be blockchain? Yes, please. The mic.
It's a new type of
Sure.
Anyway, it's a new type of technology where you can store data in it. It can be connected with a network of a lot of computers, mostly like 50 computers to 100. And it's very hard to penetrate or change anything in this block.
Okay. So, if you want to repeat it again. Can you repeat, please?
Hello? Basically, it's a new type of technology where you can store data inside a block, where this block is connected to multiple computers, and no one can change any or change anything or penetrate this block.
Perfect. Thank you. Anyone more? Yeah, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Blockchain is the infrastructure for the cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency.
عندي صوتك شوي.
It's the infrastructure for the cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and other.
It's about cryptocurrency. Okay. Any more else? طيب. We'll see. Again, I need to show hands now. Who know about Bitcoin and who already bought or purchased Bitcoins? Oh, yeah. Okay, if the time go back, will you do it again? Really? Okay, not for me. طيب, is it only about Bitcoin or you have other cryptocurrencies? A Ripple as well. Okay, perfect. And have you did the mining or you just purchased the coin? Just purchased the coin. Okay. طيب. Maybe you have heard about Bitcoin and some good and bad repetition about it. I start showing people don't know what exactly Bitcoin, but they start paying, they reach to about $20,000 to buy a coin. And if you ask him what's Bitcoin, he don't know the answer. But he said that this is a profitable business and everyone is making money, everyone is getting rich, and why I'm not? So we will not talk about Bitcoin. We will not advise you to invest in Bitcoin or to not invest in Bitcoin. This is not the subject of today. But just we wanted to look at this good side from Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, that it gave us a view how it can reshape the business of financial transactions and payments in the future. So it changed the normal business of doing payments or doing financial transaction. It's like peer-to-peer transaction. So I can send directly a coin or a portion of the coin to Dr. Ibrahim without any middleware. You have a question? Again, sorry, Mike.
Isn't the Bitcoin the same as gambling?
No, it's not about gambling. It's about it's
something you buy and will increase or decrease in a period of time.
It's about trading in currencies, like you buy different currencies, and this currency price will go up and down. The issue that it was very, let's say,
Widespread.
high risk, that it can go up and down in very high margin without any justification from economic or from no logical reason for that. However, we don't want to talk about investment in Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency. It's not the blockchain. It's one application to implement on blockchain. We can apply different business aspects on blockchain, but I started with this Bitcoin because I know when you ask anyone about blockchain, he will say Bitcoin, first of all. Yes, please.
Because it enables data from accessing to
Yeah. If I want to make it simple, if you remember the days we were using torrent on our PC, right? Torrent to download movies and to share movies with others. The concept of torrent files is there is no server in the central, in the middle, that I can download it from the servers. Also, if this server is not allowed, is not copyrighting the media, it will be shut down. It's about point to point. So I have some movies on my PC and others have movies on their PC, and we exchange these files together. It's point to point, network of point to point connections. So this is the exact point of cryptocurrency. However, let's go to the other application of blockchain, and we can see this is headlines in different famous, let's say, media. Like it can be applied for supply chain management. What do we mean by supply chain management? That if I'm in a trade of any different, it's any different kind of business. It's not about transactions of payments. If I want to export or import any product from international party, so how can I follow up my, let's say, product? How I can follow up my payment? So this is what we call by supply chain. And it involves all parties, like shipment companies, like taxes, like customs, and all of these entities. Another example, this is the financial. We talked about the financial part, the payment and the cryptocurrency, and how blockchain will solve the quality or the problem of the food we eat every day, how we can make sure that it's being treated and maintained up to the compliance regulations. So for example, some type of food should not be treated with temperature higher than 10 degrees, for example. So how can we guarantee this? How blockchain will solve this problem? We will see this in the slides. Last thing, let's think about insurance. So how can insurance be improved by using blockchain technology? So how can we track claims? How can we validate fraud claims? How can we expedite the process? And how can we make it more cost effective for the insurer? Okay, moving next. So this is the, let's say, the right definition or the technical definition of the blockchain. As your colleague just mentioned, it's a ledger. This is the right, it's a ledger. The ledger means that it's a write once database. So when I write any entity, any entry, or any transaction on this database, that means I cannot delete it. I cannot change it. Not me only. All people have access to this database. They cannot update or delete this record. So for example, talking in financial transaction, if I made a transaction to Dr. Ibrahim, a transfer by, let's say, $5,000. And by mistake, I make it $6,000. So I cannot update this transaction and make it 5,000 again. What should I do? I reflect it again. I will do another transaction with minus 5,000 or so minus $6,000, sorry. And I do another transaction with the right number, which is 5. So the transaction record will be plus 5,000, minus 5,000, plus the right, let's say the right amount, which is 6,000. So this is the beauty of blockchain, that you can track the history, the record, so no one can claim that this one has not been modified, because nothing can be modified. It's a record of transactions. Another characteristics for this ledger, that it's shared between different entities. So if we have, for example, in the network, 5 to 6, or let's say 100, 1,000, whatever, name it, entities in the network. So each entity, each member in this network will have its own identical copy of this ledger. So it's not centralized, it's distributed. So for that, they call it distributed ledger. In this case, when you have this ledger distributed and it's the identical replicas between all parties in this network. We'll talk later who will be in the network, who will not be, but let's assume that we have a network of 100 participants, and each member in this network has its own ledger, its own replica of the ledger, and all the replicas are identical. So what if I tried intentionally or unintentionally to change my ledger in any technical way possible? So I will be claiming that my replica is correct against another 99 replica saying another story. So the more nodes, the more members, the more replicas we have about this ledger, the more authentic it is. So if we have a network between 3, so sometimes they can agree together that let's change this fact together. But if we have network between 1,000 members, if 1 or 2 will change this fact, we have another 997, let's say, accurate replicas. So this is another characteristic that help us to make sure that information cannot be changed, information cannot be frauded. Now let's talk about what we call consensus, which is, I can name it in Arabic, اعتماد transaction. So for example, if I want to write a transaction in this ledger, and I'm the owner of this node, I'm a member in this network, all other members have to review this transaction and approve it. So it becomes a valid transaction. If any, or if they don't agree on this, they validated and they don't agree on this transaction, it will not be recorded in the ledger and will not be distributed between the network. So members together as a network, they agree on an algorithm to validate transaction, to make sure what is the logic behind each transaction, and they have to review and to agree. However, there is different protocols for consensus, because sometimes if you have, let's say, like Bitcoin, if you have millions of members in the network, it's not, doesn't make sense to wait for 10 millions, for example, to accept one transaction. It will take forever to accept this transaction. So they have different algorithms, but you have to provide what we call proof of work, because they want to agree on this transaction. Now let's talk about the key concepts of the blockchain technology, and these concepts make it very unique and very special, that it can solve new business problems that cannot be solved by current available technology or by other technologies. First of all, let's talk about cryptographic hashes. I think it's better to move to the next slide. Okay. I missed that slide. Okay. So it's about representing information using the binary data of images. So for example, if I want to say Fox, for example, it will be represented by, let's say, 16 characters of binary data. If I change one letter in this word, or if I make it 2 words, red fox, for example, it's not about just adding one character to the binary. It will be another completely binary data. Actually, I have to show this to you. I think it's very useful to show it how it can work. Sorry, I missed that slide, my mistake. But it's about representing the data hashed with binary characters that if anyone gets access to this information will read nothing actually. If he don't know the algorithm to decrypt the information, will not make any sense for him, will not get any information about it. It's about hashing the information like binary. Another key concept is the public and private key. The public and private key is used to, again, to decrypt the information and decrypt information, but for another purpose. For example, I can use my private key to decrypt the information and give the public key to all partners or all members in the network. Using the public key, they will be able to decrypt information. So we use this way to make sure that Wa'il is, and only Wa'il, he's physically write this information using his only private key. So well, this is what we call in technology signing the information. So I sign the information digitally that this is done by me. So however, it's a broad concept about the public and private key, but it's just used in the technology. This is another interesting characteristics, which is the transaction chains. This is the other part of the name of the technology, which is blockchain. So the chain of the transactions means that each transaction is linked with the previous and the next transaction. So the header of the transaction is linked with the footer of the previous transaction, and the footer of the transaction is linked with the header of the next transactions. That means I cannot do any update and put a transaction in the middle between two transactions. So for that, we can keep the history of transaction in sequence without any change. And finally is the smart contract concept. A smart contract, it's like any other paper form contract. Why we use the paper contract? We sign it every day with our business, with our, maybe when you buy a car, when you subscribe in any, let's say, business, you sign a contract, right? Why you use this contract? Mainly to formulate business rules, right? So we formulate agreement. We want to make it official. So if I want to do this business with this entity, I want to pay them this amount, so they give me this service. If any one of the two parties want to violate this business regulation or business agreement, so then the contract is void. So exactly this is the same concept, but it's digital. It's digital contract. That means I write my code and I might write my business logic inside the transaction. So the transaction will be executed only and only this logic has been met. So for example, I will write a transaction that I will buy a car from Dr. Ibrahim and I will pay him this amount, a number of amount, but we will write a condition in this form, in this contract, that this transaction will be executed only and only if the car passed the inspection, الفحص الدوري. Okay? So I guarantee that I will not pay money for car will not pass the inspection. And the Dr. Ibrahim will guarantee that he will get his money once his car will pass the inspection. So in these days, they use an intermediary person or an intermediary entity, which is al-ma'rad, صح? That we go together, he guarantee my rights and your rights to not violate any regulation. If we use the blockchain technology, we can write this agreement and make it coupled with the transaction. So the transaction will be executed if this logic has been met. So then no need for intermediary person to guarantee my or your rights. Okay. Now talking about the type of the networks of the blockchain. We agreed that the blockchain is a network of members. They connect together to store information in their ledgers, and this ledger will be identical and will be not immutable, not changeable, right? So there's different type of networks for different type of business. The first one is the public network, which is for public. Anyone can join the network, anyone can be a member in the network. The most very famous example on that is the Bitcoin. I can now have my machine, do mining, start do mining in Bitcoin. I will be part of the Bitcoin network. No one can tell me that I cannot join. It's public, it's for all. Anyone can join. This is not the one that we want to focus on because this is for cryptocurrencies in general, and we don't want to take this in our discussion today. What we have today is the private and consortium networks. They are the same, but just one difference. Private is for one entity, for example, for Jamiat al-Yamama, and they use it to resolve an issue between two different organizations within Al-Yamama University, like Amadat al-Qubur Tajil with Amadat al-IT, for example. This is the private. The consortium, it's cross the organization boundary. So it's Jamiat al-Yamama with Jamiat al-Imam Saud and Ministry of Education. So it's different parties to solve a common problem. We will see how this will happen. So these are examples on the public blockchain networks. Very famous one is Bitcoin, but we have different cryptocurrencies like Ethereum, Monero, Cash, and so on. And those are the private or enterprise or business consortiums. For example, let's take this one, Corda. Corda, it's a network of different financial entities. They formed this network together to agree on some financial and anti-money laundering and payments and cryptocurrencies for their business use. So it's for financial services use. So any financial service can do the agreement with this network. They sign some documents to join this network, and they will be part of this. So it's a consortium ledger or consortium network. Rebel is another example. So it's another business one. Okay, so why does, knowing now the characteristics of the blockchain, the technology and the business application of it, so why it's important for the business or for enterprises, not for individuals? Before we talk about why in specific points, let's just see the numbers. And usually numbers always tell us how important things are. So for example, if we see that there is $280 billion in financial industry fines since 2009. So if blockchain can help organizations to avoid these financial fines, see how big benefit they can achieve. Another example, not in the finance, it's about fraud and tax fraud. So in US, there is about $21 billion result of the tax fraud violations that happen. So what if we can guarantee this through customs and taxes and so on? Also, from different angle, it's about there is about 48 million illness cases from let's say food that has not been maintained or الطعام الفاسد خلينا نقول إذا مثلا بتصير منه حالات مرضية. فحتى لو ما فكرنا في الفاينانشال, it's about our health, it's about our families, it's about our life. Okay. For example, let's imagine the food contamination scenario. How can we guarantee that this food is maintained and dealt with in compliance with all regulations, with all standards, with all health and regulations? For example, we have here SFDA, هيئة الغذاء والدواء. They take care about this, that they should, every food imported to the Saudi Arabia should be maintained, and when I say maintained, that it's through the shipping, through the storing, until you reach the store. You should make sure that it's maintained in the regulation, up to the regulations, in compliance with the regulation. So if we take a broader review that this is the store, this is the manufacturing, this is the shipment. So it's a supply chain, a network of supply chain. Maybe it can be across the world until you find the food in the store. And you need all these parties to work together on a network to guarantee that all criteria, all regulation has been met. Otherwise, it will be rejected, and it will be clear because you cannot change the history, and it's replicated between all parties. It will be clear for all that this entity or this entity is responsible for this violation. So no one can claim it's not my violation, or it's lost in the middle, for example. Okay. Usually, us answering the question why blockchain is important for business or for enterprise or for organization. Usually they want to make sure about an asset they transfer. When we say asset, it could be a physical asset like the car we just mentioned, or like a digital asset, for example. What kind of digital asset we can talk about, Doctor? The Bitcoin, but another example. The digital certificate, for example, the student certificate. Now we know about things happening between universities, Ministry of Education, الملحق الثقافي, صح? To make sure, all this business is to make sure that this certificate is correct and it's not frauded, right? So this process sometimes take long time and very legacy or manual process to get some certificate verified and approved. So what if we have all these parties in a network, and it will be real time, it will be against, let's say, fraud, there will be no possibilities to do any change, or even for any unintentional human error, it will be protected. Cross-organizational workflow, as we said just now in the process of validating the certificate, we are waiting for الملحق الثقافي in UK to verify this certificate from UK, so we can accept it here in Saudi Arabia, right? So what if this ملحق ثقافي was in the network and we just get it in time? And when I say in time, I mean real time. It's just the time of the transaction. For example, back to the Bitcoin. When you buy Bitcoin from someone, it will take maybe less than 6 minutes to get it in your account. But if you do it in the regular financial transfers now, if it's international payment, it will take 3 to 6 days. So look at the benefits from the blockchain. And when there is a transparency issue, or when there is a trustless environment, and this is not bad, by the way, it's normal in business. For any two parties doing business, there is a trustless environment, because I don't trust you until you meet my condition. I will not pay you until you get me the service or the product I'm asking for, right? For that, we see in banks what they call letter of credit, letter of guarantee, right? That means that people doing business, they want someone in the middle to guarantee this for them. So also when we talk about auditing, if you have again, back to the example of the cars and the ownership transfer and الفحص الدوري, if there is a lot of auditing entities, they want to make sure that this process has been done and it was completed against regulation and compliance. Or maybe the food example will be better. So you need a lot of organization to review and provide approval or provide auditing result on that. So you can give them the ledger, and they can be part of the ledger actually. So they will have their own replica, and they will be able to validate without sending report, validating report manually and accepting that, and so on. So again, it's useful for again, if your business or if your organization is facing a challenge in one of these three things, the data integrity or data security or transparency of information. For example, another example on transparency, elections. and especially in our Arab world, mashallah, elections always not accepted by people, right? Everyone claims that this election is not accurate, is not honest, let's say. How can we resolve this? If we can have these elections results and reviews and let's say sorting all on ledgers. So it's for everyone. No one can claim that this is not true because you have your replica. It cannot be changed. History cannot be changed, or the chains of transaction will not be broken. So this will not be an issue for us. Also, when we talk about efficiency, again, if you have manual process and you want to expedite it, definitely you have both parties in the ledger. They will hold this in the network. Sorry, they will work together and they will do the transaction in real time. And here are some landscape about how can we use blockchain in different industries. For example, in financial, we just talked about that, but we just talked about transaction of sending money. But what about for banks, like releasing or improving liquidity? So for banks, always they care about the money liquidity in their treasury. So what if I can use that cryptocurrency rather than using the money? So it will enhance their liquidity. Another example here in healthcare, like it can remove third-party verifiers, like in insurance. Now insurance, they're investing in verifying every claim. They hire doctors to verify and to approve a claim of insurance, right? So what about removing these third parties and make it peer-to-peer insurance? Also, very good example here is about the patient record. What if I want to move between different hospitals? Let's say first inside Saudi Arabia, whenever I go to any hospital in Saudi Arabia, they know my patient record, they know my history, they know all my, let's say, medical special needs, and they can treat with this immediately rather than opening a new file for me. So it will be good for both. For the patient, I will easy the onboarding process, so no need to open a file and do the registration. I'm already known for them. Second, it would be good for, let's say, in the nation, and the national level. They know exactly the patient records. They know what exactly happened. They don't have information scattered here between different private and government hospitals and so on. Another example in government is about transparency. We talked about elections, for example. Also to track assets. Can you give me some example about assets in government? Very important asset that we talk about. Maybe we hear about this in the news. Like, for example, land registration. There is some, what we call SAC mulkiya, is fraud, and there is a fight on it, and there is a big case, and news talk about that, right? So if we can have this land registries in the blockchain between all parties in the government, taking care about land registries, like Wizard al-Adl, and actually I don't know about other parties that can be involved, but think about it. Even in, not in government, in retail, they sometimes there is a very high value assets. For example, المجوهرات, there is a specific asset that have its own identifier number. So what if I make sure that this asset is registered in the blockchain network for those chain who deal with these assets? So if this asset has been registered, that it's been bought or sold in one entity, I cannot do the registry again in another entity because it's one item. So there is a duplication, I will catch it immediately. I will prevent asset fraud in this case. I will pause here. I need your participation now. I need examples from what we said. How can you apply this blockchain on your life examples, in your ideas you want to do projects for, and so on. So, any volunteer? Yes, please, the mic. Mike? الأخت.
So maybe we can use it for IoT devices that,
IoT devices.
yeah, that require tracking or any of that sort of technology.
To track,
Yeah, to track IoT devices, for example.
yeah. Perfect, agree. I have a slide for this that blockchain and IoT, they work better together. Why? It's another technology that can help solving a business problem. For example, we have a business case here. I'm not sure if it's in the slides or not, but you can track milk production from the farm to the store. And this milk should be treated with a specific temperature. IoT part come here that it can track by the sensors that in the store, in the shipping, in the farm, in all production phases. So if any sensor provided data that the temperature is above, for example, minus 10 degrees, then this is a violation. And the sensor will tell where's the location happened. So we can identify who's liable for this violation. So yes, again, the blockchain technology, IoT is a technology that can work with the blockchain. Together they help a business problem. But I'm asking what business problem that can be solved by these technologies. I want some real life examples that you may think about. Online websites. Mm-hmm. Definitely. This is the supply chain. This is what we are talking about, yeah. And when we say I can track, I mean by real-time tracking. Now we all suffer from tracking our shipments because it will move from China. I will wait for one month until I see it arrived in the local shipping entity, right? But in the middle, I don't know any information about. Of course, there is customs from, let's say, original country like China, and customs in my country. There is transportation by airplane or by maybe ships through the sea, I don't know. But there's a lot of stages that we don't know about it, and I don't know where is my shipment. Yeah, it didn't arrive yet. Check with the sender, right? Exactly. What about if you want to track it and you want, again, like the IoT example, I want to make sure that it's, if I'm ordering very high value asset, like for example, fragrance or makeup, that should be maintained well. I don't want it to be maintained with, for example, with the high humidity ratio, right? So what if I can track this as well? So this is in my contract. When I write the contract, I will pay this, but I want to get it in good state. So what if in the middle it has been, let's say, violated this condition? I have my right to decline this shipment, and the transaction will not be executed. The financial transaction, I mean. Good? Yes, please. I can hear you.
Case in blockchain. Is it working?
Yes, yeah. I will repeat your question. No worries.
Yeah. I have a use case for blockchain. Like in the past, government have contracts with other companies to provide weapons, weapon factories. Mm-hmm. So there are cases that cause fraud. So if you implement blockchain in a weapon factory industry, I think it will ensure
definitely
no repudiation.
Definitely. Just to repeat the question, it's about a case for manufacturing the weapons and providing them to the right entities. This is very valid case. Thank you for that. First of all, it's an asset. Each weapon has its serial number, right? And there is a black market for these weapons, so people can buy this in the black market. And it's affecting our life, right?
Yeah.
It's something very dangerous that this weapon go to the wrong people. So this again is about tracking the assets and preventing the black market for selling and trading these assets. One more?
Another use case is the
Yeah.
logistics.
Yeah, logistics.
Yeah, the logistics industry. I think blockchain will be very helpful for them.
Yeah, what do you mean by logistics? And what's the issue in the logistics?
Shipping,
Yeah.
exactly. In many fields, in sea shipping or air.
Yeah, exactly. The shipment and the tracking the shipment.
Yeah,
Again,
ledger
it's
will
like
be
the same
very
example raised here. And just to remind me, it's not only about tracking the shipment or tracking the condition of the shipment. Sometimes this is useful not for the buyer, it's useful for the seller or for the insurer on that shipment. I just read about an example of insurance company. Blockchain and IoT help them to provide the most competitive offer for insuring a shipment. Why? Because they do insurance for shipments sent through the overseas and ships. So they can track the ship track. If it entered in the danger zone, in the smart contract they wrote, they raised the insurance price, sorry. And if the ship exited this danger zone and went into, let's say, normal or safe zone, the insurance price or insurance amount will go down. So that helps them that, okay, I can provide competitive price against other shipment companies, they don't use this technology. So the customers will take mine because I will give them based on their zone. This can be applied for our banks here. So when you go and apply for a loan for the bank, they want to make sure that there is no risk that you don't pay this loan for them back, right? So usually they do the interest high a little bit. Sometimes they reject your loan at all. But from a business perspective, they want to do this business. They want to give the loan because this is their business. There is a benefit for them. So what if they can track your credit and they have this real time? They don't have to send information to the credit check department or to SIMAM or Assistant Naqd and make sure that you have no, let's say, unpaid loans or you have previous history with not paying loans. So you have, let's say, blacklist entry. So in this case, they can give you a better price. And we see this example in insurance of cars when they see that you finished your insurance and you didn't make any accident, you didn't make any claim, they give you a discount on the new year insurance. But what if they can know more from other entities in the blockchain, not from their database, from other databases, and can give you more competitive price? This is another application on the blockchain benefits. So I think we are good so far from time perspective. Yeah, I think we talk a lot now from business perspective. This is the benefits all customers are looking for. Again, it's repeating all what we have. It's like summarizing what all we have discussed. It's reducing the cost, it's mitigating the risk, and it's reimagining the process. This is the ultimate thing that we are looking for. It's creating a new business model. So maybe removing some parties from the process, maybe removing some steps that are not needed anymore because we have the blockchain. The banks, the intermediate banks are very common in this case. Okay. I think most of you now is thinking about cases that can be applied on like a graduation project or maybe my own business I want to think about. So these are the criteria or these are the questions that you want to ask you if blockchain is the right technology that solves your problem or not. First of all, you need to ask yourself, does the business process cross the trust boundaries? Do I do a business process that I deal with other parties I don't trust? So I need to do like smart contract between me and them to guarantee. Second, because for example, if I'm doing this internally within my department between two employees, I don't want to create a blockchain network between these two employees because it's within the trust circle. So, for example, sometimes blockchain is not the right technology to solve your problem. Do multiple parties work of the same data? So we have different entities, they all write information on this network. So if it's one writer and multiple readers, this is a simple report. I can write information and publish it as a report to others. This is not a blockchain. But if we have different writers and this is different entities, so I want to consolidate this data in one repository. and it's distributed. I think this is a good case also when we need a blockchain technology. Are there any intermediaries that control the single source of truth? Are we reaching to a single entity just to make sure that it's the only trusted entity that can give us the single source of truth? So we can remove this entity and we work peer-to-peer by using the blockchain ledgers and the smart contracts. Last thing, do we have a process that involve manual verification process? So we need to speed this. Yes, blockchain can help this. Can help us in this case. We have seen many use cases for that. And this is what we talk about: blockchain and IoT. The beauty here that we can reach to a level that a device can do a business with another device without any human interaction. So, for example, I don't know, it's like a manufacturing entity, a manufacturing machine in a factory that can, based on the IoT data provided, a machine learning hub getting the data and catching a pattern for need for maintenance. So the machine can order a maintenance from other party without even a human interaction. Or a machine can order a manufacturing spare part from another machine. So it can be machine-to-machine smart contract. Using the IoT, it will feed the data. A smart contract will do the business between two machines. This is the example I talked about, which is the a company called Maersk. It's an insurance company. They do insurance for shipments through the sea. And I hope, yeah, exactly. This is the slide I talked about, that this is a safe zone, this is a danger zone. So they write the condition. This is the path A to B. The risk is low. The insurance value is this amount. You see this, it's minimum amount. In the smart contract, they write another condition that if the path is getting in C zone, which is a high risk zone, then the price contract will be high. Again, if the ship exits the track, the contract will be again low price. So this will help the insurance company to provide competitive price insurance company. Another example, 3M company is a very well-known company about, they do a lot of medical devices, medical equipment. So there was a problem, very similar case to the weapon, that there is a black market for the medicines. So they produce medicines. These medicines are being replicated and being sold with the lower price, but we cannot guarantee the quality of the medicines. So what they have done, they have produced like a barcode can be printed on the medicine, and this barcode is like a serial number that will be registered in the ledger. So this ledger will be tracked. Let's show the technical side. This code will be tracked against all stages of the supply chain. Whenever we see there is a difference in the number of items, we know who is responsible for that. So for example, here's the smart contract created with 1,000 units of drug A. For carrier 1, he delivered with the same number. So there is a sensor reading what we call the barcodes. Carrier 2 also delivered with the same amount. So he's okay, he's clear. In the retail store, they did the scan and it's 900 units. So the violation happened here in the store point. So they can now know exactly who's responsible for this change or violation. طيب, finish the business part, finish the application, finish how can we apply this in different ideas. Now what Microsoft can do for organization to enable them, to make this benefit for them, and to make it simple for them. This is the message here, that it's not about implementing A to Z blockchain solution. You should focus on your business. You should focus on how to solve this weapon issue. صح? You don't want to think how I can register with Corda Ledger or with. It's not your main focus. You look for someone that you can transfer this work to him to solve this issue for you, right? This is what Microsoft doing. I will move a little past. These are the messages coming from the development community. So for example, I take months to develop a POC, and I spend thousands of dollars because this is a unique technology. I need a specific skill set, I need specific hardware to implement it on my server room. So this is a unique technology that cost me and time and money. Just to deliver a POC, and I may end with this POC that I don't want to continue with this business or with this idea. So it's costly for them. It's requiring a special skill set because it requires a special language. I don't forget its name. It's like bespoke or something to develop smart contracts. So sometimes you can't find the resources in the region where you are working on, or it's like rare resources. You don't want to get the hassle of the infrastructure, server, network configuration, opening port, firewall implementation. So this is something you don't want to get in. Last thing is you are putting some sensitive data for assets, for very important things, but on an insecure platform. You don't know if I'm putting this on server, who can access, how can hackers attack and access my data on my server. So if can someone protect this server for me, do all the compliance against security standards, I will be faithful. So these are the sides of the solution of blockchain. So these are your business application. This is what you used to do in your business, usually, in your organization or in any organization. They provide, for example, services through mobile, through internet, through application or through devices. And these are the ledgers in the market. So we have like Hyperledger, we have like Tchain, we have like Aquarium, we have Ethereum, and more. It's not only about this. So in the middle, how to use this ledger and make your business better and create new services using this. This is the area Microsoft wants to work in. And how to integrate with other organizations using these ledgers. So rather than writing your logic, you are focusing on implementing a lot of technical components like security, like API management, like managing the public and private keys, and so on. If you want to implement this from scratch on your data center or on your server. Okay, what Microsoft has done is make it like a populated, pre-configured networks. When I say network, it's ledgers of blockchain, the Cordium, the ledger, the Hyperledger. So all these can be populated and pre-configured on cloud. So you just provision this from the cloud. You see that I want a blockchain environment with Hyperledger network. So you don't implement this. It's pre-configured, you just provision this. Second, it enables you to integrate with your relevant services. Like if I want to access a library in the university to get, for example, student information and get information from that library and make it in the ledger. So it gives you the middleware to integrate and get information from enterprise data. And we are looking for simple interface, simple way to do things, right? So these are the ledgers. Let me move, okay. These are the components provided by Microsoft platform. This is the platform of Microsoft blockchain. It gives you, like, for example, identity and key management, enterprise integration with your business application, between the ledger and business application, data platform for the business intelligence, for machine learning, security monitoring, API management. It gives you the ability to work, to get the ledger, make them work under your business application without getting in the hassle of all the components we see to create a business, an application of blockchain. On top of that, we have what we call Azure Workbench, Blockchain Workbench. It's the interface, user-friendly, that help you to provision, configure your blockchain application without getting in the technical details. And you use it only to write your business logic. This is the only thing that we cannot do for you, because you know your business, you know how to solve your problem, you know the logic, you create the logic. So you create this logic in the workbench, you set the application properties, and you just configure the technical part you want to include. So in this interface, you can say that I want what they call it, accordion, or a Corda ledger, and I want to have it like with identity management, with security management, and I have integration with my ERP in the university, for example. It's all done through configuration pages. This is a technical architecture. Just if you are interested how this workbench is architectured, these are the application that consumes your services. These are the end service you are providing, like either reports or APIs or logic application, or even you provide events to sensors. You have here the data sources, the application that provide information, or the sensors, or the databases or data information. In the middle, there is a lot of components that make this information available for these services. For example, we have the services bus. We have the distributed ledger services that allow you to use and store and read from the ledger. Here is the blockchain ledger. It's already pre-configured and implemented in the component in the platform. You can choose if you want to save your data in the ledger or in external database. This is what we call on-chain. This is the data that we want to in the ledger. And off-chain, this is the data we want to solve. But we want to solve it, to save it outside the ledger, but we want to use it during our processing. So we save data off-chain, but we use it in the application. And this is the off-chain storage for documents, for images, and so on, not for data entry. This is the benefits of using Azure Blockchain Workbench, which is simplify development, accelerate time to value, and innovate with confidence. So you don't need to invest more, no need to take more time. You just do the innovation with simple tools, simple templates. So back to this diagram, rather than doing all these boxes, you just focus on writing the business logic. If there is an integration built in out of the box, but if you want to customize integration, you have the idea, the space to do that. And if you are looking for extended capabilities. Otherwise, all the technical components are already pre-configured in the platform. You just provision this platform and use it to write your business application. So, to summarize, blockchain is, again, it's a distributed ledger that establishes a secure shared source of the truth. So this is the definition we concocted together. Blockchain is useful for enterprise, not only for payments, not only for cryptocurrency, and these are the benefits. It's about asset transfer, cross-organization, exchange of information. It's for transparency, for auditing, and so on. Microsoft platform is about making it easier, and it's about enabling you to use blockchain in your business application and in your business ideas. This is our demo was supposed to do by my colleague Fathi Assam. Unfortunately, he's not with us, but just a very quick handout or step by step. It's how you configure the blockchain. It's the life cycle. First of all, you deploy the platform. You request the platform, you provision it. Second, you create a story. So you create your, what's the problem you want to solve? The weapons example, the car registration, the land registry. So you create your scenario high level. Then you define your roles in the application, in the scenario you just mentioned. You define the smart contract state, so the contract will be violated if and will be valid if. You put your logic. You design your workflow. You specify what data to be stored in the ledger and what data to be stored off the chain. And you start coding your smart contracts, configuration the contract, and then you deploy and you add users and test. This is how, if you want to have access to the blockchain workbench, this is how to deploy your blockchain application on Workbench. And I just I need to confirm that, but I think we are gonna provide every user who registered his email now with a trial access to Azure, so you can log in free of charge. You provision blockchain environment. You test it. You play with it. You try some small ideas. Maybe it can be useful for your graduation projects and so on. And I think I recommend you for next step to go and see this. It's like a demo. Video demo. It's a YouTube video by Microsoft engineers who are working on engineering from the core in engineering the blockchain platform. They have very nice demo about the milk production scenario, and they show it to you step by step how they write the code. So you can access this link to learn more about the workbench scenario. And there is a marketplace. This is what we want to talk about. I can provide for you users that you can use and free of charge. So this is how you can download, or not download, sorry, you can provision blockchain platforms. Or if you want to get more details, technical details, there is a lot of documents, technical documents in this link. It's as known as the Microsoft/Workbench docs. And finally, for people who want to get connected with the communities. So we have a wide community from developers, from Microsoft, or from partners, or even from third party, or from people, from customers, from students. They have a forum, like they can discuss with each other, how can we solve this problem? Or I have this idea, how can I apply it? Or I tried to apply it, even in technical side, I applied, but I got this error exception. Anyone face this problem? So a lot of things can be discussed. It's like a community, and I encourage everybody interested in this technical side of the technology to get in it. And that's it. I hope that you found it useful. I am open for any question, and I'm all yours. Thank you. Any question, Doctor?
Thank you, Engineer Wa'il, for this interesting talk about blockchain. We open the floor for questions. If you have any question, you can ask.
Yes, please.
I got multiple questions. So the first question.
If you can use the mic.
So the first question, you said that your platform is using smart contracts, which is basically like the Ethereum blockchain and so on. So what kind of language is the smart contracts built on?
What kind of?
Language, coding language, like Solidity, JavaScript, or C++?
Since it's on Microsoft platform, you can use it on the all. Okay. It's again the basic language to create smart contract. It's called, I forget its name, but it's very. I heard it for the first time when I read it, and no one knows about it. So Microsoft want to make this easier for the people. So you can write in the Workbench the language, the .NET, the C#, the Java, and it will be translated in the let's say underlying level of the technology. But my comment is. Those, what you named, is not smart contracts. The ledger, the hyperledger, the Corda, those are ledgers. Those are blockchain ledgers, blockchain network ledgers, okay?
I mentioned Ethereum blockchain. Ethereum blockchain.
Ethereum as well. Hyperledger, Ethereum, Corda are all ledgers, networks of ledgers invented by technology vendors, okay? So each of them provides specific customized, let's say, capabilities that solve special needs. So for example, we talk about the Corda, it's done by a chain of financial institutes. They want to solve specific things in common. Hyperledger is by IBM, it's for enterprise, for business application. Ethereum, again, it's by another entity, but for business applications. Microsoft, the strategy of Microsoft, it's how they decided. They don't want to create their own ledger and they compete with those ledgers. They said we want to solve the puzzle in the middle. So we want to create a layer that we enable all people to use all ledgers. So any ledger can be used on Microsoft platform to solve your problem. And you can create your application. For example, you can create payment solution using the Corda. In the same application, you do the claim processing, for example, using Ethereum. So this is the beauty of the platform. It gives you the flavor. You can use whatever you want, and you can do the integration. You can do the off-chain data storage, and as we described.
Okay. So this is my first question. The second question it is, we use, us as students, we use the Blue Mix and IBM Watson, the artificial intelligence from IBM. It was for a limited usage for the students. So what can Microsoft do for us as students? Can they give us like free access for their platform, or at least a trial?
I'm not sure I got your question because I'm not very well familiar with the technology or the solution you talked about. But talking about free access to Microsoft platform, I just mentioned that I'm working with my education team in Microsoft to provide free access for each user who registered his name now or his email. He can log into Microsoft Azure Cloud. He can provision environment. He can try IoT devices. He can try blockchain. He can try chatbots. It's a free, time-limited demo, or not demo. It's live, but it's a trial user. I'll confirm that, inshallah, by next week with Dr. Ibrahim, what will be the period and what exactly the access will be provided to the user. But inshallah, I got confirmed from them, there will be something.
Okay, for last question, sorry. I took a lot of time. Is there any special training for your platform?
Yeah.
And yeah.
I promised Dr. Ibrahim I will provide him later with links for external third-party certification programs in blockchain. I have the list, but it's not with me, unfortunately, today. I will provide it to Dr. Dr. will circulate it to the students. Also, again, back to this slide. Best of things to do is to, first of all, see this video demo. This is Microsoft engineers who are working on creating the code of this workbench you see. So we know them by name. Those are the goals of blockchain in our company. They are in the United States in Seattle. So they talk about how to solve a business problem, and they show you the code, how to write it. So it's a good tutorial. Second, this is workbench doc. It's very documentation and sample of smart contracts. So read about them, and it's practical. It's not about certification and education. I will provide those links, but those are for practical resources. And last, it's about the experiment by others. So sometimes, you know, in the community, everyone has tried something unique, that he has a special case, that he has integration with special, let's say, old legacy mainframe, or something that maybe no one thought about before. So he can put his case, he can put his lesson learned, he can put his issue or his challenge, and he look for someone to help. You can find someone, he answer this, and he find a solution. So you can learn also from the communities. Thank you. Yeah.
Any other question, ladies?
If you have any question, bus, we'll take it first.
Have a mic. One asks here, then we'll move to Dr. Bani.
شغال أنا سامع.
Okay.
What are the
We have.
blockchain technology?
Yeah.
The question is, what is the relation between blockchain technology and cloud? I will answer you by a question. What's the relation between cloud and ERP application, or CRM application, or student information system? The answer is cloud can host any application platform, and the cloud can enable others who cannot implement this from scratch, from infrastructure level, who can use it as a service. You can use the platform and you start using it without implementing it, right? The same. The blockchain is something that is a technology that you can implement in your data center. But rather than getting in the whole, let's say, process from scratch, you can take it on the cloud as a platform and start use it. So it's about enabling it, lower cost. You can test it without investing a lot of time and money to configure and implement and do physical hardware things.
What will happen in extreme scenario, like let's say network disconnection, virus attack?
Okay.
Is it safe for such scenarios?
Yeah. The question is what can happen in the extreme scenarios like virus or hacking, let's say, or network disconnection, right? So, first of all, we mentioned the characteristics of the blockchain, that it's hashed and it's cryptographically hashed. This is very important. I'm not technical in this way. Yeah, I'm coming to that. It's about hacking, first of all. I'm answering the hacking point. First of all, if we talk about cryptographically hashed information, I'm not technical in that side, but what I got from the engineers, they talk about this, that to solve one transaction, if you get access by mistake, if you get access to one transaction, it's hashed. First of all, you should not be able to access, but let's say you access this transaction, it's hashed. To solve one transaction, it will take you 6 to 9 years, something very crazy about this. Okay, so this is the security part. That it's even if you have the access, it's hashed, it's encrypted. So only people or members in the network with the private key or public key, they can decrypt the information, can see the information with meaningless, let's say, not just hashed information. Second, what if data lost? We saw that it's distributed ledger, right? So again, I don't know how this could happen, but if by mistake, I'm a member and my ledger has been corrupted, right? We have millions or thousands of members in the network. They have their replica and they have the truth, right? Because it's identical. So my information will be the same like with others, so I can retrieve information from them. And if the network disconnected, we are in the internet age. If no internet connection, then there is no internet connection. So no problem can solve this. Last question, because I need to take a question
sure.
there.
Low number of peers in the network, and for some reason,
sorry? I didn't get the question.
The consortium that you mentioned, it has low number of peers in that network. What will happen if those peers are lost somehow?
I'm not getting your question. Low number of what?
Of peers in the network.
Peers, yeah.
In the network itself.
Okay.
Let's say 5 peers, and they lost like 4 or 3.
All of them lost the network?
Maybe. Extreme scenario again.
My friend, if such thing happened, then we have a disaster on big level, not only on this network. I mean that to lose ledgers of 4 members out of 5, that means that something like a disaster happened on La Samahallah in the area, right? Things like this, that we have to find the reliability for that. Like the internet connectivity should be reliable, the data center should be protected and reliable against disaster recovery and so on. But it's not about, and if we talk about cloud platforms, so for example, when you create your environment on the cloud, it will be replicated on all data centers across the world. So for example, your information will be replicated in different data centers because this is premium cloud offering. Like IBM, like Microsoft, like Amazon, all of them are providing, let's say, top of available technologies for cloud protection. There was a question there. The same question. Okay, good. Any more questions? You will be asked by Dr. Yeah.
Microsoft Imagine competition.
Yeah, thank you for that.
And because once you register, there is an Microsoft Azure student account, and they get $100 credit, and they can use the services of Microsoft.
Yeah.
That's what I got to know.
Yeah.
So I just wanted more details about it.
Okay. Unfortunately, Engineer Khalil should be with us today, who's the education lead, and he should have, he was supposed to talk about the Imagine Cup and motivate students to participate and to take this opportunity. I talked to him today morning, and he promised that by next week we will have a meeting with Dr. Ibrahim to see how can we encourage the students and what are the available resources for students to use this or to participate in this Imagine Cup.
So meanwhile, maybe the students can register and they can start exploring.
I think it's available online
yeah,
now.
Yes, yes, it's there. Yeah, so maybe.
Yeah.
Now, whoever is interested to explore and use $100 credit for a year, I guess, so they can use it.
But you register because you need to do.
It's free. 100. Yeah, its credit is there.
You did this this year or last year?
But the limit is there, $100.
Is it this year or last year?
This year. I just registered to explore.
Then it's another way to get Azure account with the credit.
Yes.
But be careful with using the credit, so because you are participating in a competition, so you want to use it for best of art output you want to participate with. So read all the readiness before, read all the tutorials, the community, the documentation. So when you get this credit, use it for the max, right?
Yeah, sure.
If you have questions,
would agree on the same thing, like fraud or embezzlement or anything. Could it go wrong?
The question is, could the blockchain technology used in a bad way for black market, for fraud? I didn't think about this question before, but it's a technology. You can use it for all purposes, right? It's technology available for all. Again, if the gun can be used for good purposes or for bad purposes, right? It's a technology that enables people to do more. But we need to know if these people are good or bad, so they will do more good things or bad things. I think this is... Any more questions? Dr. Ibrahim will be asking you very hard questions after that, so be careful. Project running with government agencies? You mean blockchain project? We have a lot of ideas, nothing, let's say, live so far, because actually there is a challenge. We are running this workshop even for our customers, because we want to raise the awareness first that blockchain is not only Bitcoin. And Bitcoin had very bad reputation about using for money laundering, for black market. So still people are not confident that I want to go with blockchain. So maybe the new generation we are seeing today here, they can bring this to the business, inshallah, in the future. But there is a lot of initiatives undergoing now, talking about protecting assets, protecting digital records from fraud, doing reconciliation or process, let's say, reconciliation across different agencies. So it's better than integrating between 100 entity, and it will be one-to-one integration, or creating a middle entity in the middle, so they will be all integrated with, and it will be the single source of truth. They are taking this blockchain in the perspective in different industries, in education, in health, in, let's say, supply chain. But so far there is no live, we can demo. I can provide a lot of use cases, published use cases, published publicly use cases, like this one about Maersk insurance. I think it's before the technical part even. The insurance company that it can provide a very competitive insurance contract based on the ship zone. So if it's high zone, they can provide high contract price, or the other way. So I can work with Dr. Ibrahim, provide him with all available use cases or references that can be shared. So a lot of application in insurance, in banking, in supply chain, in land registry. In Brazil, they are using this for land registry, because in Brazil there is a lot of corruption there in the government side. So they use blockchain to protect land registry from fraud. This is a case done by Brazil. Sorry, one example I forgot to tell about, it's about digital identity. I can have my digital identity in the blockchain. So wherever I go to any government or bank or entity, I can just give them the key to decrypt my entity. So rather than providing filling forms and maybe doing very legacy process, and maybe I can abuse it even myself by having different identities with different organizations, right? So it can be applied like a digital identity. I just remember that because Brazil has done digital identity as well. Yeah, hopefully, inshallah, in the coming years, it will happen, inshallah. It's coming. Blockchain in UK now is being adopted on the government level. By 2020, they want to have all government transaction and documents shared through blockchain. It's an initiative on national level in Emirates.
Okay, if there is no more questions, I would like to thank Engineer Wa'il again and Microsoft KSA for this lecture and for this support. We'll be looking forward to see more collaboration with Microsoft, inshallah, through many events in the future.